Why Europeans can't believe American college football. It begins 3 hours before anyone kicks a ball. A group of visitors from Germany step off a bus into a parking lot the size of a small town, and the first thing they notice is not what they see, it's what they hear. Somewhere in the distance, a drum line is warming up, and the sound rolls across the asphalt like weather moving in. They came expecting a football match. What they find instead defies translation. Smoke rises from hundreds of grills. It is 8 in the morning, and families are already cooking ribs, flipping burgers, setting up folding tables with more food than a wedding reception. Children in miniature jerseys chase each other between cars that have been transformed into makeshift living rooms, complete with televisions, couches, and flags the size of bedsheets. An older man in a lawn chair offers the visitors a plate of food they didn't ask for and didn't pay for, just because they're standing nearby and look a little lost. One of the Germans turns to his friend and asks, quietly, almost afraid of the answer, "Is this the actual game, or is this just before the game?" It's just before the game. Nothing here is official yet. No ticket has been scanned. No player has taken the field. And still, the energy feels larger than most cup finals these two have ever attended back home. They walk for 20 more minutes, past a marching band rehearsing formations in a field, past a bronze statue where strangers are taking turns posing for photos, past students who have not slept because they've been camping outside the stadium gates since the previous afternoon. When the stadium finally rises above the tree line, it doesn't look like a sports venue. It looks like a monument. And then someone tells them the truth that makes the entire morning suddenly reframe itself in their minds. This isn't the Super Bowl. This isn't even professional football. This is just a Saturday. To understand why that sentence breaks something in the European brain, you have to understand what football means on the other side of the Atlantic. In Europe, football is club football. It's built on relegation and promotion, on rivalries that stretch back a century between neighborhoods, not universities. It's intimate, tribal, often working class in its roots, and deeply local in a way that rarely intersects with education. Nobody in Manchester grew up dreaming of playing for their university. The idea barely registers as a concept. So when a European visitor is told that the 100,000 people flooding toward this stadium are here to watch two universities play a game that has no bearing on any professional league, the confusion is almost physical. Where's the money coming from? Why does a school need a stadium bigger than most nations' national arenas? Why is there a marching band with 300 members? Why are there cheerleaders, mascots, and a fight song that everyone seems to know by heart? The answer isn't really about football at all. It's about identity. In America, a university isn't just where you get a degree. For millions of people, it's where you become who you are. It's your first apartment, your first heartbreak, your closest friendships, the 4 years that shape the rest of your life. And Saturday afternoons in the fall become the emotional anchor of that entire experience. The ritual that ties a 19-year-old freshman to a 65-year-old alumnus who graduated before that freshman's parents were born. That's why you'll find grandfathers in an arbor teaching their grandchildren the same chants they learned decades earlier, inside a stadium that holds more than 100,000 people and is, quite literally, referred by locals as the Big House. It's not hyperbole. It's genuinely one of the largest stadiums on the planet. And on a fall Saturday, it becomes the third largest city in the entire state, filled for a few hours, then empty again by nightfall, travel south, and the emotional temperature only rises. In Baton Rouge, visitors are warned about something called Death Valley, and they assume it's a nickname invented for marketing. Then night falls, the lights dim, and 80,000 fans begin to scream simultaneously, and the ground beneath their feet actually trembles. Seismologists have recorded it. A European engineer on a research exchange once described the sensation as feeling less like a crowd and more like controlled earthquake. In Tuscaloosa, the pregame walk isn't just a walk. Fans line the streets for hours just to watch the team arrive by bus, reaching out to touch the vehicle as if it carries something sacred. In Columbus, 100,000 people rise for a script formation spelled out by the marching band, and grown men cry watching a single senior earn the right to the eye. In Oxford, Mississippi, beneath ancient oak trees of the grove, tailgates aren't casual gatherings, they're formal affairs, with chandeliers hung from tent poles and family china set out on folding tables. Because tradition there says you dress up for football the way you dress up for church. At Clemson, players run down a hill and rub a rock before kickoff. A ritual so charged that opposing coaches have openly admitted their own players get nervous just watching it happen. At Virginia Tech, 80,000 fans headbang in unison to a heavy metal song as the team takes the field. An image so surreal that first-time visitors from Europe often assume it must be a joke, until they realize nobody is laughing, because everybody is completely serious. Not every tradition is about intensity. Some are about tenderness. At Iowa, in the middle of the game, the entire stadium turns for a moment, 100,000 people pivoting at once to wave toward the windows of a nearby children's hospital, where young patients watch from above. There's no music, no announcement demanding it. It simply happens quietly every single game, because somewhere along the way it became something the community simply does for its children. European visitors who witness it for the first time often say the same thing afterward. They didn't expect to cry at a football game. And then there's Penn State, where more than 100,000 fans dress entirely in white for what's called a whiteout, transforming the stadium into a single, breathing mass of color and sound so overwhelming that broadcasters have compared the visual to a snowstorm rolling through the stands. What strikes Europeans most, though, isn't any single tradition. It's the accumulation. It's realizing that none of this is rented spectacle. No corporate halftime show. No manufactured pageantry designed for television. It's inherited, passed from parent to child, from professor to freshman, from one generation of a town to the next, until the university and the community become impossible to separate. By the fourth quarter, the visitors from Germany aren't confused anymore. They're standing, arms raised, singing a fight song they learned an hour earlier, surrounded by strangers who no longer feel like strangers. Later, waiting for their bus home, one of them will try to explain what happened that day to someone who wasn't there, and he'll struggle because the words will sound too small for what he felt. Because that's usually how it goes when you visit somewhere new. It's rarely the landmarks that surprise you the most, or the food, or the postcards you already knew you'd photograph. It's discovering that something a stranger considers a completely ordinary Saturday can leave you changed by the time the sun goes down, and realizing quietly that you'll never watch a football match of any kind the exact same way again.